From the Beatles and Mick Jagger to the Queen, Jane Bown photographed them all. The veteran observer photographer has spent the past 60 years looking through the lens of her trusty Rolleiflex and Olympus cameras, usually with just a few minutes to capture her subject. It started in 1949 with the philosopher Bertrand Russell eating his breakfast in a hotel. Richard Nixon and Margaret Thatcher followed. Her portraits can be seen at a new exhibition at King's Place in London and in her new book, Exposures. She's given her first television interview in decades to our arts correspondent, Nicholas Glass.
A glowering Samuel Beckett, another unforgettable face captured by the camera of Jane Bown. All her portraits are character studies, always in black and white, always shot in available light, shot fast, usually in 10 minutes or so. This is photojournalism from another age, raised to an art. At 84, going on 85, Jane Bown isn't so mobile these days, but she's still sharp of mind and as keen-eyed as ever. This exhibition amounts to a career retrospective, and she's thrilled by it. We talked to her in the quiet of her home in Hampshire. Jane Bown is a reluctant, modest interviewee, a great photographer without obvious ego. We had Mona the cat for company.
I think I'm probably good at recognising the right moment. I can't make them. I can't make the moments, but I can recognise them when they happened. My first instincts are always probably best. The first shot would probably be the best one, or the last one. I would take you to this window, make sure you sat at where the light, marvellous window is for photography, and light, get you in a good light, so that I can see your eyes, look into them. Well, that's all really.
The eyes are the most important bit.
That's all. Eye to eye.
Jane Bown has called herself just a hack, without really meaning it. For 60 years, she was a jobbing photojournalist for The Observer. She had an eye, an intuition like few others, particularly for portraits.
Jane absolutely, in some weird way, allow people to be photographed the way they see themselves. She doesn't impose anything. She's a benign character, she's diminutive in height, she works quickly, she tries to keep the immediacy of the first initial meeting as fresh as possible, and she's gone.
There's a photograph in the book of Richard Harris, I think at the Savoy Hotel.
That's right. Well, I arrived and there he was, and I said, "Don't move. I'll have you as you are." I'm quick, I think. I think my reactions are quick.
The Observer has a Jane Bown archive of about 500,000 pictures. Tommy Steele on his wedding day in Soho. The police holding back the throng. Iris Murdoch in 1978, pre-Alzheimer's. Keith Richards in his pomp. Her first serious photograph at Guildford School of Art was a close-up of a cow's eye.
When I first started, I used to photograph funny things like cabbages and in the snow. And I'd always get a wonderful feeling inside when I got the shot. Then I slapped the camera down and think, got it.
Her first assignment at The Observer in 1949 came from a woman picture editor.
She said, "Well, if you can photograph a cow's eye, you can photograph a portrait." And then I got a telegram in the days when there were telegrams. And "You're photographing Bertrand Russell tomorrow morning, having breakfast with his new wife, Dora." Well, that put a fear of God into me. But I survived it. I mean, I always survive things somehow.
You shot a series of photographs of Lucian Freud, who famously doesn't like cameras.
When I was petrified going in, I always get absolutely nerve-wracked. But he was very welcoming. He was sweet.
And he looks directly at the camera.
Yes, what a face.
She has no interest in celebrities. In many cases, she has no idea what the people do who she photographs, like the great shot of Björk. She had no idea who Björk was. She called me one day in the office and said, "They've asked me to do a Mr. Jarvis Cocker. Who is he?"
She was sent to photograph royals, but didn't always recognise them.
Jane arrived again on her own, rang the doorbell, and this woman let her in, and she went and sat in the hall, and then the woman followed her and said, "It's me, I'm Princess Margaret." And Jane said she had this incredibly sad life of just sitting there looking out the window.
There are so many memorable images in this show and the accompanying book. Jane Bown still wants to take pictures, still sees them, but is slowing down.
Where I'm being hopeless now is I know there are pictures in Alton that ought to be taken. Alton faces, they're amazing. But I think I pulled the shutters down. Put the lens cap on.
Unobtrusive, self-effacing, Jane Bown doesn't much care for celebrity photography as we now know it. She made a record of her times elegantly in black and white.
Nicholas Glass with Jane Bown, the immortal Jane Bown. Who is Jarvis Cocker?